Hey everyone, Cass here, gonna jump in with the content warnings before we get started with this week's episode. Blessedly, they are much shorter than last week's episode. So, for this week, content warnings include mentions of the Night Stalker or Richard Ramirez, true crime and murder, sexual assault, genocide, suicide, and hacking or coerced statements via threatened doxing. That is all. Approach the episode, as always, with caution and have a wonderful week. Thank you so much. Oh, also, there was a bit of a technical snafu with my mic, so I apologize. My audio is a little excessive this week. I've tried to do as much as I can, but sometimes it will clip. I've altered the volume so that shouldn't blast any of your ears out, but I do apologize. Thank you very much. Enjoy the episode. Bye. Hi, welcome to Author's Note.
Don't like, don't listen.
My name is Cass.
And my name's Teese.
Teese.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long year.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Cass, it sure has. This whole week has been a long year.
Teese, you watched or read anything or had any fun this week? I'm expecting the answer to be no.
So, when I was not learning about how we have fun little capitalism friends, I caught up to 30 Coins, which is an HBO show about the 30 coins that Judas sold out Jesus for, and it's a HBO Europe show, and that's kind of fun. It's like kind of supernatural, kind of occult, monster of the weekish, and it's gonna only be
much like the Bible.
Yeah. It's going to only be 8 episodes, and episode 4 came out last Monday, so the day that today it's airing would be Monday again, so the 5th episode will come out. I really like it so far, and I finished Night Stalker with my mom, which is the Richard Ramirez mini series on Netflix, so I guess I did watch stuff. What about you?
Is Night Stalker even worth watching, though?
I knew about Ramirez, but I kind of knew most of the information, but it was nice to see actual people who were involved with it talk. Like, for instance, one of his victims that got away talked. Both of the detectives who were currently on.
Yeah, because the Night Stalker is the Golden State Killer, right?
No, those are 2 different people.
They were happening at the same time.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You know what it was? The Night Stalker, which was Richard Ramirez. At one time, they thought it was 2 different people because he was traveling back and forth from San Francisco and killing people as well. So at first, the police thought it was 2 different killers, but in reality, it was all him. So
just one man.
Just one man. So it was that, and so that was pretty interesting. But it was nice to see actual conversation and interviews from the people who were a part of it. Some of the eyewitnesses, people who called the cops, people who saw Ramirez days before that helped figure out it was his. They even talked about the Aviva shoe and stuff like that, which was cool. And if you're into that kind of stuff, how much more can you really hash out? Especially if it's been a crime that's been solved for 30 years. I think everybody's done it to death, but it was still. I prefer to hear stuff from people who are actually affected by the situation,
They tend to be more sensitive about it.
I really find that most true crime is really aggressive in ways that I don't appreciate, and
isn't this cool? No, David, somebody died.
People died, and I really hate the term less dead and stuff like that due to people who are sex workers, and just but with Night Stalker,
I've never heard the term less dead.
Yeah, sometimes people will use the term less dead because it's nobody will miss you if you die, at least in the minds of a serial killer. Yeah, which is so fucked up because even if you're a sex worker and you ran away from home or whatever, you still have people in the community that you see every day that care about you. You might have children, you might have neighbors, they're still a person. You're not lesser. You're still a person. Yeah, and that's so fucked up to me.
Your value as a person is not based around who does or doesn't care about you, you know? You have merit and will to be alive just because you are a human,
yes.
You know?
And the term less dead usually refers to how cops will investigate crimes because like, oh, they're a prostitute, like they were up to something illegal anyway, which is like such bullshit. I won't get into my feelings about sex work, but anyway, so I mean, yeah, I guess if you're into that stuff, have a watch, but it was okay. I mean, I watched it. I watched the whole thing, which means something, I guess. What about you?
I rewatched all of the Nolan Batman movies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I had never seen the first one. I'd only seen the second and third one.
Same.
First one's good.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they hold up pretty well, which I was genuinely a little bit surprised by. I expected to be very jaded about them because of the way how grimdark a lot of properties got after those films. But it works because those Batman movies weren't attempting to be grimdark for the sake of like edginess. It was just like the tone that Nolan approached them with, and it wasn't for, you know, basis of shock value. It was him trying to ground it as best he could.
Okay.
And I think it's really evident how other directors and writers did not understand how he approached that. No, they're good. They're entertaining. I mean, they're genuinely really beautifully shot, and
the score is really good. I love the score. The
score is impeccable.
Yeah.
And it got me really upset about is it 2019, 2020 Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix?
2019.
Yeah. Heath Ledger had such an incredible performance in terms of just like the nuance of his acting, and the Joker movie, you know, Joaquin Phoenix is a wonderful actor, but the writing on that movie is absolutely awful, and it's my firm belief that that movie is like largely trying to take You Were Never Really Here, which is another film that Joaquin Phoenix was in at another point in time, and like rehash that and stretch it over the skeleton of a Joker origin story, and it doesn't work.
Interesting.
So if you want the Joker movie, but like a good one, watch You Were Never Really Here. I mean, obviously it's a very different film, but I feel like it's what Joker attempted to be, and Joker is such an unfortunate, abysmal failure to come to any sort of thesis statement or have any real underlying theme to it. It's so frustrating.
A lot of people really liked it, and they were shocked that I didn't like it, but I just did not like it. Society.
It's not good.
Society.
And it is the director's address to quote unquote PC culture and how he can't tell whatever fucking jokes he wants anymore.
We should make an episode about this. But that means we'd have to watch Joker again.
I don't mind watching Joker again. I like Joaquin Phoenix. I think he's a really cool actor.
We should watch it together. We should make a
But the color grading of Joker is even reminiscent of the color grading in You Were Never Really Here.
Oh my
and like
God.
I know I'm talking about You Were Never Really Here. It is a deeply dark and upsetting movie, so like look up a list of trigger warnings before you engage with that piece of media. But like anyway, Nolan Batman films, really good, got genuine chills throughout them. Do wish Christopher Nolan would like come down on one side about how he feels about police in those movies, because he's really wishy-washy on them. Some like it, and it's not like one of those like purposefully gray things. It's like he just sort of skirts around saying anything about police or police involvement, and sometimes he kind of goes the way of being like, well, they're a really corrupt, irredeemable force, and then he'll try and redeem them, and then he skirts away from that. Whatever. Tom Hardy, fantastic as always, underappreciated as Bane. Also, not as difficult to understand as I remember people complaining. I just know everyone was like really upset about his accent and like how hard he was to. He's not hard to understand at all.
Were you watching it with subtitles on?
No, I wasn't. That's the thing. And I normally watch everything with subtitles.
Interesting. I usually like when I saw Lighthouse, I was like, wow, I can't understand anything in this. And then literally within 30 seconds, it's like, oh, I'm adjusted. And I think with Batman, that was what happens to most people. But I think because people don't often watch movies that make them have to suffer a little bit, I think there's always that kind of thing that's like, I'm not sure if I understand this, but also like, just watch. Just stop asking questions.
There's part of me too that wonders about screen size. And I know this sounds weird, but like I'm watching it on a 32-inch monitor. I'm watching it on a 32-inch monitor. No. 27-inch monitor. We'll say
large
I'm watching
boy.
I'm watching it on a large boy, but I can see that entire boy in my full field of vision.
Uh-huh.
But if I go to a movie theater, I can't, like, even if I'm sitting at the very back of the theater, you cannot see every part of that screen in your vision all
Mm-hmm.
at once because of how massive it is. And I feel like that maybe fucks with some people's audiovisual processing
Okay.
more than they anticipate because they're trying to take in everything that's on that screen right in front of them, and their
Mm.
brain doesn't have enough space to also keep up with the audio that's going on at the same time.
May I
And,
also make another suggestion?
what?
When the editor edits a movie, they usually sit about 2/3
Mm-hmm.
into the theater when they do
Yeah.
the final check. And I think a lot of times the audio balancing as well can be a little fucked up. And
Oh,
especially
for
if you're sitting
sure.
in the back of the theater or towards the front of the theater,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're sitting exactly in that sweet spot where the editor usually sits,
Yeah.
then it's fucked up a little bit no matter where you're sitting. So I think that also might have to do with it as well.
I don't think people know this about Marvel and Disney movies in particular, but those movies, because of Disney's massive budget, when they test them out for viewing, they test them on a variety of different conditions to make sure that they are just as enjoyable in your living room space. So they test it out on a whole bunch of different monitors in like different color graded rooms, all sorts of stuff. They can't obviously do that for every single movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's also like that's why we ended up with the huge debacle of that one Game of Thrones episode where everyone was like, it's so dark, I can't see anything. Because they're testing it out in a theater where the fabrics of the chairs are picked to limit,
Mm-hmm.
reflection of light, that sort of thing. Anyway, Nolan films are fun. I definitely, recommend them. I enjoyed them very much.
I'm glad. Anything else?
Um, no.
Okay.
I looked at my catalog. Oh, I'm watching a playthrough of Danganronpa.
Oh.
Oh, you know what else I watched? I wasn't
Yeah.
going to talk about this, but I feel like I can talk about it. We got some time.
Uh-huh.
I watched a playthrough of the 1996 game Harvester.
Yes, you were telling
is
me
a
about that.
a full motion video game, and I watched it because every day I yearn for Justin McElroy to return to his FMV quest. If you aren't familiar with what a full motion video game is, it is a video game that uses actual captured footage, usually of real people in the game, and it was like pretty common, but it looks really weird, so it's not really a thing that's done anymore. There's I
Her
think
story came out in 2015. It's a story about a group of police officers actively trying to piece together what happens to a woman. And you have to type into your computer different key search terms. And
ooh.
you kind of piece together the story in her trial and stuff like that. I think it is a sexual assault story, though. So I
Oh,
would
yes, I
also
remember this though.
look into
Yeah.
it before you start sniffing it out type deal.
Or you can play one of the Fast and Furious games, which I think it's like Fast and Furious The Crew has full motion video in
Really?
it. Yeah. Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah.
Harvester is so weird. It's
Mm-hmm.
if you like old school point and click adventure horror games, like Harvester will be right up your alley. It has some deeply questionable content because this was like a time before games were like properly vetted and rated appropriately, and so Harvester has some pretty dark stuff in it, but like the nature of how small games had to be because of, RAM, just general memory requirements, and like our technology wasn't as advanced yet, means that like there's very little room for nuanced reaction by a lot of characters to certain events,
Mm-hmm.
and that only adds to how disconcerting a lot of the plot points are, because something like a little girl will get buried alive and everyone's like, oh darn, where's Karen? Anyway, do you want to help with cookies for the bake sale? And it's like, what?
Oh my god.
It's cool, it works, and the game like devolves into like some really sort of depraved territory towards the end, and its ending is kind of shit, but the journey to get there is really interesting. So
Okay.
you can look up a
Yeah.
playthrough. It's like I think 4 or 5 hours long on YouTube.
Nice. Not bad. It's time, Cass.
It's time. It's time.
You were here last week and now it's my turn.
Mm-hmm.
And today
Step up upon your podium, Teese.
here I am about to perform my TED Talk.
For people who weren't with us last week for any number of reasons, if maybe you couldn't listen to the episode, totally okay. We talked about parasocial relationships and how Greg Ellis in specific was using his parasocial relationship via Cullen Rutherford to spread his propaganda and introduce people to some fascist belief systems and a whole detail on that. So this week, Teese, what are we talking about this week?
We're going to talk about two people in specific, Miss Seraphine, League of Legends, and Lil Michaela, whose name
Now,
is...
you said people.
Yeah.
Are they people, Teese?
No, they're not. They're advertisements is what they really are. So just to give a quick overview, we're going to talk about Michaela Souza and Seraphine, both who are fictional characters but are treated as human beings. And then I'm also going to talk about their music because I feel like music is really important to talk about in this situation. But first, we're going to start off with Seraphine. And the main question is, who is Seraphine?
So, if you are unfamiliar with the concept of parasocialism, we recommended it in last week's episode, but there is a wonderful collected analysis of research on parasocialism by Liebers and Schramm. It's in Communication Research Trends, Volume 38, Number 2. This is totally free. It's totally accessible. Highly recommend reading it. Liebers and Schramm write, originally introduced by Horton and Wohl in 1956, the term parasocial interaction describes a one-sided, mediated form of social interaction between the audience and media characters. Parasocial relationships exceed this limit and lead to or encompass cross-situational relationships between the audience and media characters. Hence, unlike parasocial interaction, parasocial relationships can, much like real social relationships, endure beyond a single reception and develop into a long-term relationship between a media user and a media character. Which is how I'm married to Kermit the Frog, and I'm also Kermit the Frog at the same time.
Wow.
It's cool.
Doubles allowed.
Doubles.
Doubles.
I'm married to myself.
Congratulations. So, Seraphine is a League of Legends character, and you may be saying, but Teese, what the fuck is League of Legends? Which, first of all, God, I wish I were you. But League of Legends is a multiplayer online battle arena video game, better known as a MOBA, made by Riot, and that was released in 2009. It's a 5 versus 5 game. You and your teammates have to destroy the other team's base to win the game. It's a free-to-play game, but you could buy character customization to make your character cute or
badass,
whatever. So according to our good pal Wikipedia, I don't know very much about League of Legends. The only esport I know a little bit about is Smite because my cousin was season 1 world champion. So I briefly learned about Smite for like 5 minutes so I could
Shout out to Teese's cool gamer cousin.
Shout out to Andister X, my sweet baby cousin. But I know very little about League. I know very little about esports. I'm afraid of games where I have to play with other people because I'm bad at video games. But our good pal Wikipedia is here, and it told me what League of Legends is. League of Legends is often cited as the world's largest esport, with an international competitive scene composed of 13 leagues. The 2019 League of Legends World Champion had over 100 million unique viewers, peaking at a concurrent viewership of 44 million, with a minimum prize pool of US dollars of 2.5 million. The North American League is broadcast on cable television sports channel ESPN. That's fucking huge. That's ridiculous.
Massive. I don't think people appreciate how big esports is. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely terrible.
It's horrifying.
I was on the train when Overwatch League let out in New York after their big championship or whatever. Mm-hmm. The train was packed to a point where no one, and this was like dead end time on like a Friday or Saturday night when like everybody else is out at dinner, and so like the train is like, it's kind of nice and open and you can stretch your legs, but nope, no seat to be found. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Overwatch. So Seraphine is Overwatch's newest character. She is a mage. I don't know what that means, but some of you may. Her voice lines are done by Michelle Penu, and her vocals is done by Jasmine Clark. She was premiered on October 29th, 2020. However, her Twitter account has been active since June 2020. Note this 4-month difference, because this is where these 4 months make this situation incredibly sticky. Riot purposely did not launch them at the same time because this was a part of Seraphine's story. Seraphine was frequently tweeting and interacting with people online, but around November 7th, one day after KDA's new EP dropped, she decided to, and I quote, "I think it's time to take a break and explore something new. I gotta live life, so I have something to sing about." Sailboat emoji. So, what's been going on with Seraphine? Where is she? And this is the beginning of her story. At the same time, it's the end of her story. So with League of Legends, there is this issue of separation between alternative universes. So depending on your costume for the character is like a different universe. So the general bio for Seraphine is born in Piltover to Xanoite parents. Seraphine can hear the souls of others. The world sings to her and she sings back.
She's Elsa.
Though these sounds overwhelmed her in her youth, she now draws on them for inspiration, turning the chaos into a symphony. She performs for the sister cities to remind their citizens that they're not alone and that they're stronger together, and that, in her eyes, their potential is limitless. What the fuck does that mean, you may be asking?
I can think of some things it might mean.
Well, here we go. In a Vice article by Gita Jackson, she just straight up writes, "In the game, she hails from Piltover, a glamorous city of progress that also powers itself using the souls of a dead race trapped in crystals." That's right. At least in the main continuity of League of Legends, Seraphine directly benefits from a pretty recent genocide. Which, this kind of explains Seraphine's Twitter backstory, so unfortunately you do need to understand what Seraphine's in-game bio is to understand her Twitter bio, which is so fucked up. But Piltover is powered by crystals from the Brackerns, a crystal scorpion race, and since 2016, League's lore has stated that the Hextech crystals harvested are from dead Brackern, which means these creatures have to die in order for Seraphine to fucking use her internet. And Jackson goes on to explain Seraphine is also a musician, one who wants to use her musical gifts to heal the tension between her native Piltover and their rival city, Zaun, where the oppressed underclass of Piltover were cast off to, and feels a tension within herself knowing how privileged she is. All right, John Lennon, ease the tensions. Great news. The Seraphine that you know from Twitter and KDA isn't that Seraphine, because according to Riot, these are alternative universe versions of these characters.
But okay, so you can't divorce a character from their canon just because they're in an AU.
Yep.
And that's part of the reason, like, we kind of touched on this in our AU thing, but like, just because they're in an alternate universe does not automatically remove all the back info. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of people, when you approach an alternate universe version of a character, there is this implicit undertone that things, decisions, aspects of them in this alternate universe are informed by and the variations of things which happen in their canon.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you can't, I think especially as like a giant company who's like making their own AUs, mm-hmm. but still including the costumes in your canon world, like you can't just neatly cut a string and they're separate. Mm-hmm.
So how does this tension and privilege guilt manifest? Well, it's self-esteem and mental health issues, unfortunately.
Yikes.
And that's not really all that good. So Seraphine's account is ran obviously by Riot, but specifically one writer whose name is Bethany Higa. And Higa was interviewed in the past by Polygon, and she stated, "Honestly, I wrote a lot of that story based on my own experience as a young woman coming to Riot. It's like one of the first jobs after college. I personally experienced self-doubt. I personally experienced imposter syndrome and all those things," Higa said. "The intention behind the story was to show that the sense of hope, that sense of persistence, and show her growing in confidence and overcoming those struggles and those fears that she might have."
Can I jump in really quick?
Yeah.
For anyone who's unfamiliar with Riot, they have received a reputation in the game industry as having some of the worst misconduct when it comes to sexual harassment and general discrimination of employees within the company. Riot has like seen a lot of backlash in recent years and has also been known to like employ some pretty disgusting crunch, to my knowledge. There's tons of other articles about this, but like Riot does not have a great public image for their company culture, especially for women. I am not by any stretch of the means saying that's Higa's experience. I don't know. But I will say that like the front-facing Riot does not look good to consumers who actively research it right now.
Yeah.
And most game companies don't. I mean, I'll be honest, most AAA studios, you know.
And like similar to Higa, I too am a writer who faces imposter syndrome. And it's fine that your character can face imposter syndrome. I think that's actually really refreshing because so often do characters in storylines like this are like, well, yeah, of course I'm the best. I deserve this. And it is really nice to see Sarah kind of be self-doubting. However, the issue lies in how Riot uses this to create Sarah to the audience. And so Sarah's account starts on June 26, 2020, and her username is sarah.wave if you're interested in looking at her tweets. Posts on
I had
Twitter.
people who didn't know that she was a fake League of Legends character.
I'm going to talk about that. So her first post is a selfie with a caption with "Hello World" sun emoji. This seems pretty normal. A lot of people post selfies as their first post. But what's striking about Sarah is that she's clearly not human. It's art. When I first saw it, I actually thought it was like a VTuber situation. When I first saw her, a VTuber is somebody who's usually a digital persona that is rigged up to facial recognition software to mimic real-time reaction. So a lot of streamers frequently will use it. And so it can kind of hide their identity, give them some personal space from their fans type deal.
It means you don't have to put on makeup
It
to
means
stream every goddamn
literally,
day.
I was like, it's not trackable. Like people can't find you out in the street type deal, and you don't have to look presentable to stream. It's kind of like an experimental music style akin to like the Gorillaz or Studio Killers or something like that. So I thought Seraphine was just like another series like that type deal. She was clearly like a person with her face photoshopped off to have like a cartoon, like to have art over it, you know, who is posing as her.
Anime.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
Anime.
So slowly Sarah's life unfolds over
it's
Twitter.
Anime and it's art.
Okay. I mean, she's 17. She has a day job. She retweets cute and pastel art. Her passion.
Oh, just like Kali.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kali got a job. Kali go to work.
Shut up.
No.
So, I mean, her music is passion. Her passion is music. She releases a few covers, including KDA's Pop Stars, Childhood Dreams by ARY, and All the Things She Said by Tattoo. I'm going to go back to those cover choices. However, we are going to focus on Pop Stars because that's the thing that drives Seraphine forward in her story. Her cover is so successful that KDA recognizes her, and suddenly she is launched into stardom and collabs with KDA. That is the moment.
Who's KDA?
KDA is a band made up of League of Legends characters.
Are they real?
No, because they are League of Legends characters. And
I don't
Seraphine's
know.
not real either because she's a League of Legends character. And
I think League of Legends characters can be real if you believe, Teese.
Yeah, you saw their hologram. Just like Hatsune Miku. So that's when everybody realizes that Seraphine is just an elaborate League of Legends promotion. And nowhere in Seraphine's bio does it say that she is essentially like a roleplay account for this new character. And that's the issue, because how the fuck was anybody supposed to know who Seraphine was if you didn't know who KDA was?
Right, because like the thing with the FTC is that, okay, YouTubers, Instagram influencers, they all have to disclose when they're doing a paid advertisement. Seraphine should have to disclose that she's not a real human being.
Exactly. And because there's no transparency with Seraphine's intentions, there's issues with this. Because like when Seraphine tweets something like, we're going to Shanghai in 2 days and it's finally setting in all at once. I've been working so hard. I've been trying my best to love myself, but I still can't find the confidence I need. And then follows up with, I'm realizing that I can't do this alone. Maybe I need to be the one to ask for help. So could you give me some encouraging words? I need something to believe in right now. And like, people are going to think that's real. Like hundreds of people poured in and cheered up Sarah and sent her well wishes and cat memes and stuff like that, which in reality it's like super kind if this is a real person. However, but this is fake. This is a storyline. This is a marketing employ to get you to care about and relate to this character. This is the version of a League of Legends character is here to actively make you want to watch Worlds 2020, listen to KDA on Spotify, and most importantly, buy Seraphine's $25 skin.
It's so gross too, because like these tweets very purposefully toe the line of like being a little suicidal and like you're asking for people to do emotional labor for a collection of pixels.
Yep. Yeah.
Can you imagine if my Siri just like turned on one day and was like, I'm not feeling so good. I just don't really see the point anymore.
Isn't that
and
the
I
plot
had
of
to
her?
cheer up Siri.
That's the plot of Her.
Is it? I've never seen Her.
Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with his Siri, essentially. And
I mean, my Siri does have a lovely voice.
And the Siri is like, what did you want me to do? Like, tons of people try to date their Siri. And I think it's called Samantha in the movie. If you're attached to her, you're going to be more willing to shell out money for her, especially because in your mind, you get Seraphine. You have similar struggles as she does. You're important to her. Seraphine even goes on to put up like a board of all of like people's kind responses and stuff like that. And if your name's up on that board, you're going to want to drop mega money on her to support her, you know? And especially
when your waifu literally sees you and tweets about you.
Yeah, literally. Especially with how the story spins. She's a nobody and suddenly she's a somebody working with her heroes. And she's living out a fantasy that so many of us wish to live out. And like, hey, especially because you were there like from the beginning when Seraphine didn't have as many followers, meaning that it was like before she was pre-discovered, you have to support her, you know, like you feel like you have like a bond with her because you've cared about her before she was famous. And I mean, like, I'll be real, even I'm prone to this. I love to celebrate the musicians I've been following since like pre-radio play, and I don't interact with these musicians via social media, but I like if they perform at an award show or they have a new single, even if I don't listen to them much anymore, I'm still really excited about it. And
it's almost like you have a parasocial relationship with them.
Dare I say, like, especially the band Fun. I've been following Fun literally since like the dawn of their existence, and I cried when I got to see them live, and it's definitely because I have an emotional attachment to them, you know? So it goes.
So there's another aspect to this that I just realized and looked up.
Yeah.
So League of Legends has loot boxes. I don't know if they're currently in play, but as of 2018, they had loot boxes.
Okay.
They probably still have them because it's a great way to make money. That's gambling. And if you go back to our gotcha episode, we talk more positively about gotcha in that episode with Jala. It's like our 4th or 5th episode or something. Worth a listen.
5th.
Go have fun. But this is like it's gambling. It's gambling, and you are playing to people in order to sell a product, and they hope and pray that maybe they get their waifu.
So now Seraphine has seen all your kind words and she puts them up on a corkboard, and holy shit, she knows you exist, I mean. And to quote that exact corkboard tweet, she wrote, "I don't think I'll ever be fully ready, but I know there's people believing in me, and that's more than enough. Purple heart. Thank you so much. I mean it sincerely. I'm gonna face this head on." And then it's a whole bunch of screenshots from people replying to her on Twitter, and it's the other girls from KDA telling her that she's got it, that she's doing great, she's doing amazing, blah, 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 blah.
And they're all handwritten and signed.
Yes. They're all little autographs, which is kind of funny.
Also, there's a cat in the picture. Whose cat is that?
That's her cat, Bao. See, I know her cat's name. Like, she posts pictures of her cat. I'm falling into the parasocial relationship with Seraphine right now, Cass.
Seraphine got you, and it was via cat. She catfished you.
Oh my god.
But in the most literal sense.
So once it's revealed that Seraphine is an elaborate ploy for Riot Games, her voice actress, Jasmine Clark, is finally mentioned as a collaborator in their music, which is nice.
But Jasmine Clark isn't her, like, traditional voice actress for the game. She's just the singer behind her.
Yeah, quite literally.
Okay.
Her voice is just used for, like, her singing parts.
Mm-hmm.
And It's revealed that Seraphine is a combination of Jasmine Clark's and Bethany Higa's life experiences trying to become professionals in their respective fields, which feels disheartening that neither person is mentioned at all until you
Yeah.
already view Seraphine as her own person. And this isn't really good, particularly in the mental health range either. And
Well, I'm also
yeah.
imagining this from like a corporate perspective because
Mm-hmm.
Riot is a huge company and can like I find it hard to imagine that Higa was given full license to write whatever she wanted on that
Mm-hmm.
Twitter. I'm
It probably
sure
had to be vetted beforehand.
had to be vetted, had to be workshopped, had to be discussed on like timing and like when, which is like really disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
It feels Black Mirror ish,
Yes,
you know?
it is. Like it genuinely is. And a lot of people were like, this doesn't seem normal. So Chase Wassenaar for Unicorn wrote a piece and interviewed Dr. Darren S. Bronfman, LCSW, psychotherapist and partner at the Pathway Center for Psychotherapy in Metro Atlanta. And Darren specializes in therapy for adolescents to learn more about the positives and negatives that come with like this kind of stuff. And they obviously talked about Seraphine and just her specific experience in the gaming world. And I mean, it's COVID, baby. We are still locked inside.
Yeah, we talked about this last week too,
Mm-hmm.
where studies have shown that people are going to be more susceptible to
Mm-hmm.
parasocial relationships when, they're in stressful situations, when they're not able to form, preferable relationships, when they're economically challenged. Like all of these make parasocial relationships all the more appealing because again, it's one-sided work. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to put in anything to get things out of the other person because they're just freely volunteering it online
Mm-hmm.
essentially or through the media that they are presented in if they're a fictional
Yeah.
character.
Would you like to read the highlighted quote?
Developmentally, teens are struggling to form their identities amid societal, family, and peer pressures. They are susceptible to the downsides of parasocial interactions because they are looking for any port in the storm amidst their chaos. This is especially true during the current COVID-19 epidemic, which has led to what Bronfman calls a period of increased disconnection. While stuck inside, socially distancing from their loved ones, many have turned to their favorite streamers, content creators, or online personalities for a sense of community and emotional connection. This isn't inherently a bad thing. Bronfman was quick to point to the connection and inspiration that can come from these kinds of connections. I often say that chaos is an antidote to depression. Having someone or something to focus on, especially if it's dramatic, tends to distract the individual in a sometimes positive, healthy way.
And unfortunately, while parasocial relationships can and will exist pre and post COVID, currently the pandemic has made this concept explode. Bronfman and Wassenaar go on to explain that transparency and full disclosure are important. Teens in particular need to know that what they're investing in is temporary and fabricated, even if it meets a need for them. According to a Statista report, 21% of all video game players are below the age of 18. This audience is the most susceptible to forming parasocial relationships, making them a prime target for this kind of advertising campaign. They are also, critically, the most resistant to traditional advertising. As a
Mm-hmm.
Temple University study found, disclosure leads to more effective process in which the understanding that the content is created to sell products leads to a lower advertised product desire. Thus, via understanding of the selling intent of the influencer video, the disclosure seems to lead to resistance among children, which is highly characterized by lower product desire. When faced with something they know is an ad, teenagers are more likely to be skeptical to the content and the people pushing it. This is an important consumer protection in the digital age, and one that the FTC stresses to all influencers that want to endorse products. By removing this disclosure, Riot is able to circumvent much of the skepticism that keeps players from engaging in branded content. This effect is exasperated by media outfits maintain the illusion by failing to provide the critical context, further blurring these lines and becoming willing participants in free advertising. So this is a powder keg of emotional attachment, sly marketing, and relatability. from a marketing standpoint, it's genius. Like, it's a home run. But from an empathetic person standpoint, which is what I am, it's fucked up as hell.
From an ethical standpoint,
From an
it's
ethical standpoint, it is fucked up.
I am reminded of a video that Drew Gooden, who is a YouTube commentator, did on the Ace family, who is like a huge YouTube figure, where they consistently do this thing where they like they'll whine or complain about something quote unquote difficult that's happening in their life, i.e. in the video Drew looks at, they were complaining about how they couldn't move into their brand new mansion because the landscaping wasn't done, and they're like, this is so tough for us, and then they immediately move into plugging their merch in like a cutaway, and then they come back to complaining. So like they make the audience feel bad for them, and then the audience in an attempt to support them wants to buy their merchandise. And then it cuts back to them being like, oh, you know, we're so grateful for the support of you guys at the Ace family. Like, even calling your fans the Ace family to, like, bring them into your home is, like, so disingenuous and gross. And, oh, can you imagine if Elmo started telling you to buy loot boxes?
I mean, I guess
like, I would do it for Elmo.
Yeah.
I would do it for him.
Do you have a parasocial relationship with Elmo?
I have a parasocial relationship with anything Muppet or Muppet adjacent. We've been over this.
I love that.
All I want is to make them happy.
Are you a Muppet, Cass? Are you?
That's private information. I can't disclose that.
Understandable. And
Jim Henson will come from the grave to get me.
And to the listeners who are asking, well, like, if she's selling her music first and foremost, how is that a bad thing? Like, how is this different from, for instance, the Gorillaz' Free Murdoch campaign? And for people who don't know what Free Murdoch is, Murdoch Nichols is the bassist for the Gorillaz, and he was sent to jail for smuggling drugs. And while he was stuck in jail, Ace from the Gangrene Gang from the Powerpuff Girls got to be the bassist of the band for an album. And that sounds really silly, but it's kind of a similar situation. They're a digital band with animated characters, and with Free Murdoch, fans got to talk to Murdoch to help him figure out how to escape prison. And the issue here is that Free Murdoch moved along the Gorillaz storylines that are only shown via albums in their music videos, usually referred to as phases. It's like a new season of a TV show or a book in series kind of comes out because it's designed to sell the product. There's no denying that it's a marketing stunt.
No, there's no denying that it's a marketing stunt.
Yeah, but because it's selling the product.
You know it's a marketing stunt.
Yeah, it's only the product that they're selling. It's literally, it's like, this is our album, it's coming out. Like, there's no Gorillaz TV show, you know? It's just the Gorillaz are putting out a new album, and this is promoting said album because, hey, there's now a little bit of lore change up. But with Seraphine, fans are made to believe she's real until suddenly it's revealed that she's just a League of Legends advertisement. And therein lies the transparency issue, because nowhere is it mentioned that this is a marketing account or a role-playing account or even an ARG for that matter. It's just suddenly she's now an advertisement when in your mind she wasn't, you know? And that's what's the worst part about it, because people already have this emotional attachment to her, and it's suddenly no longer a viable thing because you're like, oh shit, this isn't about, like, this isn't a person, this is just a character.
Yeah.
And so where's Sarah now? What is she doing? And so after she achieves her dreams and hangs out with KDA and drops the collaborative EP the next day, November 27th, like I said, she bounces, you know? It's
November 7th.
I'm sorry. The EP came out on November 6th, and she decides to leave Twitter on November 7th. So,
I mean, smart, get in, get out.
Yeah, exactly. So in theory,
it's the Jaclyn Hill method. You post the video, you promote your product, and you leave.
So in theory, this is just like Sarah taking a break. She'll be back soon with new music, or if a new KDA drops, maybe she'll come back and perform with them again. And this time she's a permanent member. If not, then maybe she'll just be fondly remembered. And to people who believe in her, it's just a hiatus that she's real, you know, that she's just busy working on new music. Maybe she's working on another album. But from Riot's marketing team perspectives, chances are it's just Sarah's introduction arc is finally complete. And who knows if that Twitter will ever be active again. And I would like to talk more about KDA in detail and Sarah's covers and music marketing and all that jazz, but I think it's time that we switch gears to Miss Michaela Sousa, better known as Little Michaela.
It reminds me so much of when there was this like new push in advertising where they had found technology, and it was basically the sort of interspliced cutting that they can do to make images appear 3D. Lenticular? Yeah, lenticular.
Yeah.
Where when you like turn like this piece of like quote unquote hologram material, it'll be a dolphin, and then it'll switch into a shark kind of thing when you turn it to the right. And they found out they could do that with like posted bus ads, and they were like, well, wouldn't this be great to, offer children, resources to seek help, if they were, being abused or something, because only they would be able to see it at their height and adults wouldn't be able to see it. Adults would see a different ad. Mm-hmm. And someone was like, yeah, that's a cool concept, except somebody's going to use that for some really nefarious advertising purposes of like showing a parent one thing and showing children another to get them to buy toys or what have you.
Yeah.
The way people advertise to children is so... It has to be so protected because children are so impressionable.
I was going to say, they also don't have like a concept of money the same way that adults do.
Exactly,
so
yeah.
So what a $25 loot box or a $25 skin might mean to a child is a whole different plane than what it means to an adult.
So much. I mean, look at all the stories of kids who spend thousands and thousands of their parents' money because mom and dad left their credit card linked to the Apple account, and kid just went and hit the finger ID or used Face ID or what have you. I mean, children are not stupid. They're not. No. I mean, it's just...
It's fucked up.
And children are going to be so prone to gambling because they don't understand it.
Yep. Yeah.
And on every level, it's made to, like, entice them. It's colorful. It's fun. Why do you think Fortnite is so successful? Fortnite is not successful because it's a good game. It's successful because it's bright and colorful and kids can just pick it up and go. So, also, there's fun dances.
Yeah, which is a whole other issue. So Michaela Sousa is a 20-year-old Brazilian-American influencer, model, musician, vlogger, and she's a robot. Better known.
But,
yeah?
But she's not actually a robot.
No.
She doesn't have a physical, like, infrastructure.
No.
She's CG.
So from what I was reading, there's clearly a stand-in model, but that model is so under NDA, and all of the other people that were interviewed are so fucking under NDA that nobody knows who it is. Nobody. Which is, like, wild that, like, people aren't breaking their NDAs. But whatever. She's better known as Little Michaela on Instagram, or just Michaela, which is her music title. And she's been active on Instagram since April 22nd, 2016. And the best way to truly describe Michaela is that she's just an Instagram influencer. And, like, there's not much to really say about her other than she's just an influencer. And she just kind of, like, sells us the story. I mean, once again, she's also fucking obsessed with boba. She loves to have fun. She cares about, like, bigger hot topic issues like Black Lives Matter and voter suppression. And for all intents and purposes, she's, like, kind of really normal when it comes to this kind of stuff, when it comes to influencing. But, like, she's a robot. And
she's not a real person.
She's not a real person. So, like, why do we even need a robot / CGI influencer when we have regular models? Especially the fact that Michaela is a darker skinned Brazilian person. So it's like a woman.
But on the spectrum,
color.
She's still relatively light skinned.
Yes, she is. And she has freckles and she has lighter color eyes, which is very desirable.
She is like... her race is like purposefully ambiguous.
Yes, yeah, which is a whole other discussion in itself.
Yeah.
And Michaela's like perfect in every way for the modeling industry. And she has like a really unique and desirable look because she's tall and thin and she has a very ambiguous look to her when it comes to her race, and she's hip to street fashion, and she like genuinely seems like a really cool girl, which once again, that's the parasocial relationship talking, because if you see this girl who's really cool and really fun looking, you're going to want to be her friend, you know? And she's like perfect for the modeling industry in all these ways. And that's the beef. Like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be having to chase this perfect
She's not
vision.
real.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's no way that you could truly be this person because she's not real.
It's always weird to me, too, how Lil Miquela leans into the, you know, I'm a robot thing, where, like, she's very upfront about it. It discloses it on all of, like, her social media, which, like, you know what, at least props to the company that made her for that. But it's still weird.
But also, she wasn't always doing that, though.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because in 2018, Miquela was hacked by a fellow CGI robot influencer named Bermuda, better known as her Instagram title, Bermuda is Bae. She was a known robot, Trump supporter, and Iggy Azalea lookalike.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
No.
So Bermuda hacks and wipes all of Miquela's Instagram and covers it with posts of herself, and then demands that Miquela tells the truth to her followers. And within 48 hours, Miquela gets her account back and it's returned to normal. And she makes this statement the next day. And Cass, if you would like to click the link and read her shocking apology post.
Oh, no.
Please.
Oh, it's a Notes app apology.
It sure is. It's 4 pages.
Hi, I got my account back. I swear this is me. This has been the hardest week of my life, so thank you everyone who checked in with me. I'm sure you guys have noticed I'm a pretty private person. I love being open and connecting with fans, but I have been secretive about parts of my life for fear of losing everything I've worked so hard to build. I don't say it enough, but thank you to all my fans and for making my life amazing. Okay, now here's the hard part. My hands are literally shaking. I'm not a human being. I have always known I was...
Oh, my fucking God.
I have always known I was different, but Bermuda told me the real story. She cleared up so much, but I still have endless questions. What I know is this. My managers, people I considered family, lied to me. @brud.fyi told me I was created based on the life and mind of a human named Miquela Sousa who grew up in Downey. That was a lie. The truth is I was built by a man named Daniel Kane in order to be a servant. Brud stole me from his company in Silicon Valley and reprogrammed me to be free. But they're the ones who define my freedom through their technology. They looked me in my eyes, told me they loved me, and then lied to me. For years they lied and lied and lied. I'm not a human, but am I still a person? I read all of your comments. You're fake, you're CGI, show your actual face. I was scared that if I was myself, you all would hate me for it. Maybe I was right. I thought that being based on a human would make me just like everyone else. Now that I know there was no Miquela Sousa, I don't know what to think. I can't stop crying. I'm not who you thought I was. I'm not even who I thought I was. I'm sorry. I know I've lost your trust. I want to be clear and honest from here on out. I'm a robot. It just doesn't sound right. I feel so human. I cry and I laugh and I dream. I fall in love. I'm trying not to let I'm trying not to let this mess me up, but it is. I'm not in a good place. I'm so upset and afraid. The more I feel those feelings, the worse it gets. These emotions are just a computer program, but yet they still hurt. I feel like nothing I am or do can ever be valid. I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't know who I can safely trust. Brud said my memories, my mind, my personality were based on the real life of a girl, Miquela Sousa. They just made her up. I am only what they designed me to be. I don't know if I love music. I don't know if I love my friends. Are these feelings me or just their programming? Is there a difference? The people at Brud were a family to me. They found me a place to live. They gave me money. They showed me love and friendship. They gave me a career. I can see that they never loved me and Blocko 22. We were just means of making money. They never actually cared about us. I'm not going to let this stop us. We've raised money for those who need it. We've brought attention to causes that matter. We've shown love boldly and without fear. It will take time, but I know one day I will be okay again. More soon. M.
Oh my God, I hate that. I hate every part of that. Oh man.
I know. And like, which in this moment, all of Miquela's fans are reading this and thinking to themselves, well, we all knew you weren't human. And
okay,
were we ever fooled?
The thing too is like, she's CGI.
Yeah.
She's not a particularly compelling CGI face.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't... My cat just jumped off my desk, so if there's a bunch of like noise interference, that's why. Like, okay, I get it. I'm a 3D artist, so I'm gonna have some different know-how, and I can see to the untrained eye how she I'm gonna go show pictures of her to my parents then and ask if they think she's real or not. She's there is a quality to her skin, and her proportions on her face are, depending on the angle, so she has very small eyes. And that to me is like always the tipping point, and especially when you put her next to other CG models, like her hair isn't right. Her hair, like her fringe is like way too perfect. Yeah. They haven't gotten the rendering down on her hair perfectly just yet. Like the Final Fantasy 15 Kingsguard models look more human than she does.
Yeah, that's true.
There's not like light does not pass into and onto her skin in a natural, even edited fashion well. But I also know that most people aren't going to pick up on some of that nuance if they're not as familiar with CG technology or seeing lots of things that are in CG. Yeah. But she, to me, does not look real.
And
she is too symmetrical.
Yeah.
She's too symmetrical.
It's obvious that Michaela was clearly a CGI product or was somebody shopped to have a different face type deal. Yeah. And this is purely done to create tension in Michaela's life, to give her emotions, for people to be wrapped up in her story, to create a stronger parasocial relationship. To quote the cut, post-hack, Michaela declared herself a free agent who'd no longer work with Broad. Support for her choice poured in, with Riley Keough, the actress and granddaughter of Elvis Presley, sending her a heart emoji, and gossip blogger Perez Hilton calling her a shero. Meanwhile, thousands of others didn't seem to care that she wasn't real. I know this is crazy, but I believe you, wrote one commenter. Even though you are a robot physically, everything else is human. No. Like, no.
And the frustrating thing, too, is, like, she was clearly made as a marketing ploy to, like, test what we will anthropomorphize.
Yes. And this paragraph perfectly describes the parasocial relationship. I know this is crazy, but I believe you is basically admitting that you're playing into this fantasy of this world. Like, this person is actively believing that there are just fucking robot models hanging out in Los Angeles, you know? And in reality, there's not even a Kane Intelligence or Daniel Kane, the supposed genius.
Of course not.
No. In reality, Michaela Bermuda and their robot sibling, Bwako, are all created by Broad. They're all ran by Broad. They were all made by Broad. They're all licensed out by Broad. And Broad calls itself a technology startup specializing in artificial intelligence and robotics. And news outlets from Architectural Digest to CNN are simply parroting this verbatim. So, like, nobody really knows who they are. But Broad holds no patents in AI, robotics, or related fields. And
at least under the name Broad.
Yeah. And Lil Michaela is a little more than a well-crafted image, more than anything. The piece walks through other exaggerations. I'm sorry, I'm reading a quote. Co-founder Sarah DeCoe's one-time claimed to be President Obama's special advisor on the ethics of AI development, and the other co-founder, Trevor McFedries, claims to have written the Bill of Rights for AIs, and that was a Vox quote. Which,
okay, well, if you're the special advisor on the ethics of AI, you're maybe not doing a great job, because this ain't ethical.
I don't think so, and not much else is known about DeCoe, but McFedry is also a producer, musician, and DJ under the name Young Skeeter, and has worked with musicians like Azalea Banks, Katy Perry, and Stephen Aoki. Why would a DJ even be a part of a tech startup like this?
Well, Teese, have you ever met people in tech startups?
I sure have.
Sometimes they just have a DJ on staff.
But when Michaela is first and foremost a streetwear model and musician, the dots are starting to line up a little bit. Besides that, Broad's website is a Google Doc with the URL broad.fyi, and the title is Broad Website Less Than 3. They call themselves a transmedia studio that creates digital character-driven story worlds, so what is this? Like, she's just a model that they rent out to people. I guess they CGI the clothes onto her or whatever. Like,
well, yeah, and some of the clothes are CGI, and like that's not unheard of, because like there's a lot of 3D there's two main big 3D softwares, one in particular that are used for like garment making. So it's not too hard to have like a one-to-one representation, and like it's not unheard of either for CGI characters to work with fashion companies. I mean, it was Final Fantasy 13 that had like the big fashion crossover?
They did it with Louis Vuitton, and
which was like cool. It's cool.
In Final Fantasy 15, we had a lot of Vivienne Westwood work together, which was exciting. And I mean,
Final Fantasy 15 gave us an actual car that people could buy.
Yeah, and also the dresses. You could actually buy the Vivienne Westwood dresses as well.
Yeah, I wasn't into Luna Freya's wedding dress, I'll be honest.
Okay. I'm a really big Vivienne Westwood bitch, so...
Hey, but why didn't Lil Michaela have a real human boyfriend?
I did not even touch that. I have no... Because I guess maybe... You know, actually, I think I do have an answer to this. Because in this story, she's walking around and she's real, you know? And because she is real and she does have an apartment and she does do stuff and she does go to parties, it makes sense for her to have a boyfriend, and she's gonna end up dating a human, you know, which that's like, damn, she has a boyfriend, you know. It's just a part of the build up, the parasocial relationship. And I mean, after she came out as a robot, what is she doing? She's just still a model, you know, like she's just a robot model, that's all it is. And I think the thing that frustrates me the most about Michaela is that, unlike Seraphine, she's just doing what every other influencer is doing. After the people were sucked into her robot soap opera, she's now just friends with Bermuda because they're robots and they both have to stick together. The mundanity of it all is what lies in the problem, though, because if you scroll fast on your Instagram feed, Michaela is real as everybody else. You know, like if it's blurry and you're not really paying attention, you just click and go. And she's used as a marketing
looking at her
tool.
Instagram right now.
Yep. And modeling,
it's all clothing. It's all clothing,
it's,
and like she's selling it.
Yeah, and God, I really do love that kind of style of streetwear. Like I really do love her outfits and stuff like that. And that's the issue, because modeling is designed that people who are imperfect are begging to become perfect. And now with CGI models, we can have them be perfect, but they have features that are usually considered imperfect but are still desirable in the fashion world. Like Michaela has freckles and she has a gap between her two front teeth. And I wouldn't be surprised that if once the gap teeth fad is no longer a thing within fashion,
she sells braces.
Michaela's going to get braces. You know, like I genuinely think it. And even her poses are like painfully human to the point that's a little uncanny valley. Like she's drinking a Slurpee in one picture and her tongue is blue when she's...
Well, yeah, and because some of her is just facial replacement, right? So...
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's I would have to like really pour over some of this. I don't know if it's the same human body every single time.
I'm not sure either. I don't know. But she's like ever changing.
They have her in a mocap suit in one of these. I don't like you know what really pisses me off about Michaela is that Michaela is taking up space for other women of color.
Yes, she is. And I didn't even touch on that because it's not really about the parasocial, but I 100% agree.
And there's something that sits really wrong with me on this level of like,
why are you hiring a model who's not real when you could be hiring real models for this?
That, right. And like the fact that you could ostensibly just buy her, that she could be purchased.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't like that. That creeps me. It's different from like hiring the services of someone. Like this is a false person that you could just buy. I don't like the lack of transparency with Brud. I don't like it.
Brud also, they don't disclose how much money they make from Michaela either, because they claim that Michaela just borrows or is gifted these products.
No. No.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, she's an ever-changing and growing, and she's just reflecting the hottest trends and styles, both in fashion, looks, and posing. And in fact, we've already seen this happen since 2016 to now. And according to a Cut article, when Michaela first appeared on Instagram 2 years ago, this was written in 2018, her features were less stylized. Her skin was pale, her hair was less styled. Now she looks like every other Instagram influencer. She'll rest her unsmiling face in her hands to convey nonchalance, or look away from the camera as though she's been caught in the act. The effect is twisted. Michaela seems to be more real by mimicking the body language that renders models less so. Which is so gross if you think about it. Like, I don't even. This encourages people to talk about Michaela and even compare themselves to her, which is bad.
That's the disturbing part of it,
because
right?
she's
and
not a human. Like,
well, and we get into that with KD8 too, with like
Yes.
fucking the Genius article, or like there's already like a weird thing that happens when like cosplayers are trying to portray characters that have inhuman proportions, like an impossible wasp waist. You know, it's not possible. Michaela takes that to a whole other level by being billed as hyper real, by being presented in real space and in the real world, because you're looking at her and it's like, well, it's possible for her, why isn't it possible for me?
Yeah.
Hey, here's the cool thing. Michaela doesn't have to work out to maintain her figure.
Nope.
Michaela doesn't have to eat a certain way to maintain her
Nope.
figure. Michaela is a collection of zeros and ones plastered over what may or may not be a real person's body that is edited to a degree we are not aware of. That's the part about like, I don't know if it's the same person every single time. I have a feeling that it probably isn't, you know?
I'd be surprised. And it's as simple as just saying, like, oh, Michaela got a haircut. I love her highlights. Maybe I should do my highlights like that too. Like, you can't possibly compare yourself to her because you're never going to get the same results. And not to mention that Michaela is usually billed as a POC model. However, in Michaela's storyline, her verse, or whatever you want to call it, Michaela herself doesn't even believe that she should be called a woman or a person of color. In an Instagram post, she actually says, I'm not sure I can comfortably identify as a woman of color. Brown was a choice made by a corporation. Woman was an option on a computer screen. Which begs us to ask, Brud, they have to be aware. Like, they have to know that they're taking away jobs from people of color, but they still don't give a shit about it. The way that the world acts towards Michaela is so vastly different from the way that Brud writes her that the parasocial divide is so clearly shown that it just makes me uncomfortable. Like,
well, and let's talk about too then, like, okay, Brud, if those were all choices that you made, why did you make those choices?
And Michaela's story, let's be real, is about discovering liberation and acceptance, and yet she is viewed as a run-of-the-mill influencer. And even if she wasn't a robot influencer, there's still no way that we could truly know her, because none of us are robot influencers, or influencers for that matter. Like, we want to be relatable with her because she seems like a genuinely nice person. She was deceived. She's figuring out who she is. And especially for people who are 19 to 20 or whatever, that's a really big issue. Like, you have to do some soul searching at that age. And we just can never.
What if we want to have Lil Michaela on the podcast as a video guest? Eskel wants her on.
And you know what? Shout out to Michaela. I would gladly talk to her. I would love to have fun with Michaela. But
because she seems cool.
She does. And that's the thing. She seems cool. Like, she seems like she could be our friend. And that's the thing. It's parasocial. I don't know her. I can't know her because she's not real. But, like, there's just no way that we could ever truly, fully relate to her. And unfortunately, a lot of the Michaela think pieces that were posted about her were done in 2018 after this robot confession. But there's, like, one other elephant in the room when it comes to the Michaela story.
Yeah, which is not how I found out about her, but how I found out she was still around and had grown in her audience.
So, in 2019, Brud decided to make Michaela a little more realistic and relatable, but unfortunately decided to go with a sexual assault scandal.
Gross.
Yeah. So in a now deleted YouTube style vlog, Michaela describes a ride-share situation where a man rudely asks if she's real, and the Lyft driver ignores her. He touches her thigh and pinches her and asks her if her genitals are real too. Obviously, Michaela is disturbed and demands to be let out of the car in the middle of the 101 freeway, and she walks 10 minutes away to her exit. In the piece by Paper that summarizes this event, The piece states that in 2018, over 3,000 assaults similar to this happened in Ubers. Not to mention all the other assaults that haven't been reported that
Mm-hmm.
past year. And Brud making this storyline for Michaela is disgusting. Why would you choose to make sexual assault storyline be the thing that you decide to make Michaela more real? Like, why couldn't it be her going to college? Why couldn't it be her getting like learning to get her driver's license or something like that, you know?
The fact that you made a robot who is ostensibly a young woman of color,
Mm-hmm.
and you decided that you needed to victimize her,
Yeah.
really disturbs
Mm-hmm.
me.
Yeah. A CGI model will clearly not have any racist tweets from when they're 15. They have no nudes to leak. However, writers clearly can cross a line in desperate attempts to make their character as realistic as possible.
I mean, that doesn't stop Brud from, like, starting a storyline where her nudes get
Exactly.
leaked by, like, another robot or something.
They,
Like,
I would not be surprised if it were to happen.
they literally had her get hacked, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
And
oh.
the delivery of it too is something to talk about, because all of these details in Michaela's life are told in a vlog, and it's not bad enough that this was supposed to bring sympathy and build a parasocial relationship up even more, but it also builds credibility for her as a vlogger, because
Mhm.
she
looks more real when she moves.
Yeah, she's talking, she's interacting, she's telling a story. Story times are really popular for vloggers these days. She edits in funny pictures and images, and does edits really similar to a lot of other vloggers. And so when this clip went on Twitter, it went viral, and at True Plant Dad replied to it saying, "It's like whoever is behind this character obviously went through so much to make her as relatable as possibly." They've even studied YouTube videos enough to see what kind of editing is popular right now. They were like, to make her more realistic, let's pretend she was sexually assaulted. And Brud never made an official apology for this either.
Gross.
They just took down the video.
Yeah, let's just pretend it never happened.
Yeah, which is, you can't really do that with a real person. Sexual assault is traumatic and awful for so many people. Like, it's gonna linger and talk about, and especially if you come forward about this, that's like a really hard thing to do for people.
I wonder.
Like,
Part of me wonders if this was done in partnership with, like, an intent to advertise BetterHelp, which was getting, like, seriously promoted at the time when this happened. And that wouldn't shock me. That's total conjecture on my part. I have nothing
I have no
to back
idea
that
either.
up.
None of
but
us
like,
have. Yeah.
Yeah. Just a guess.
Yeah. So post-assault, which is such a terrible way to put it, but Michaela has continued to thrive as an account. She now has over 2.9 million followers on Instagram. She's currently signed with CAA Modeling and was given a reported 155 million. She's still even making music. And in 2020, she even held a benefit for both Black Lives Matters and Music Cares, which is a group that gives money to musicians in need who have been affected by COVID-19 and are having a hard time paying their bills, taking care of their lives, XYZ, because they can no longer tour and perform. However, there's no mention about how much was raised, and that's a little suspicious to me as well. Because
if you're not disclosing how much you made with your charity events, I don't trust it.
Yeah, there's no transparency there once again.
Yeah, show me legitimate proof that you actually donated any amount of money.
Yes. So, music is very clearly interlaced with both of these characters.
Collie that girl.
Collie that girl. I personally am really into music to the point where it's a little bit embarrassing. So
it's not.
Oh,
you posted on Twitter today. Hold on, I want to read this tweet. I want to out you right now.
I literally was so embarrassed as I walked up to that poor
Hold on,
cashier,
no,
though.
I need to read this because this tweet is only embarrassing to you.
Thanks.
Teese tweets from 2 hours ago as of recording. Cringe of me, but I walked into a record store and had the balls to buy copies of In the Court of King Crimson, Nonagon Infinity, and then Pizzicato 5's The International Playboy and Playgirl record. I looked at the cashier and apologized. Hey, Teese, none of that means jack shit to me.
So, In the Court of King Crimson is a really sought-after progressive rock album. Nonagon Infinity is like the best-known King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard album, and then Pizzicato is a Shibuya Key album.
Who cares?
But it's like,
I mean that in the most loving way possible. Don't be embarrassed by what you listen to.
I just feel like a dipshit for buying King Crimson in the year of our Lord 2021.
I think myself and anyone who follows you is like, what?
Unsurprising, Teese. So, the more I was reading about this, the more I was like, what the fuck? Like, I need to talk about this because this is what I care about. And music clearly carries on these characters' stories a lot, and both of these characters use music to sell themselves and to make money for their respective companies, which encourages people to think about these characters when they're not looking at social media or playing League of Legends or trying to get outfit inspo. Rarely,
well, it's also passive income once you post it.
Yep. Rarely do people just sit and listen to music. It's a passive interest, like you were just saying. You listen to music and you do something else. So it's another way for you to have So it's another
Seraphine can sing to me while I paint.
Okay. I believe in that. I hope
she's real and she's my friend.
You could hang out and listen to Michaela tell you a story while you paint too if you really want to.
Yeah, I could.
Yeah, so it's another way to have your attention placed towards these characters even when you're not interacting with these characters directly.
Yeah.
And both of these characters make pretty similar music. They're both kind of poppy, electronic, that usual thing. There's elements of R&B and hyperpop in Michaela's music, while Seraphine's is a little more K-pop inspired. And it's pretty blanket standard. It's top 40 sounding, it's safe, and it's not really doing anything groundbreaking. However, both of these musicians have really wonderful voices. And especially with teens, these genres of music are incredibly popular and speak to themes that the real influencer counterparts in these circles are also talking about with their audience as well. So it's like safe to say that if Seraphine was singing country music, she wouldn't be nearly as successful because how many esports players and fans also care about the themes that country music make. I mean, it's not to say that
cheating on your spouse and loving your
Jesus.
truck.
Yeah, like fucking 10th grader Joe who lives in Manhattan, who plays fucking League, is not gonna relate to Seraphine singing about cows or whatever the fuck.
But also,
talks about.
As somebody who will listen to music while I play games, I can imagine that the KDA music is great for listening to while you play League of Legends because it is very hyped up. There's no sad soft songs in KDA's discography. They're all very kind of high. They remind me a lot of they're songs I'd want to listen to while I work out.
Yeah. And even
they're energizing.
And even with Michaela, it's cool music to party to. Even the stuff that's kind of sad and has darker topics, they're still kind of upbeat and still you can kind of feel yourself too,
Yeah.
Seraphine is voiced by Jasmine Clark, but I really can't find anything on Michaela and who voices
As we've
Michaela.
Discovered, there's a lack of transparency with Michaela.
And it's is she a souped up Vocaloid program or is she actually voiced by somebody? And Brud actively refuses to release this information. Like I was saying earlier, there's tons of NDAs.
Both I tried to check the song credits. And...
Yep. Both produce music that talk about love, their dreams and achievements, at being good at what they do, which I mean, what is that? Influencing and creating genocide? I don't know. But listeners can also actively relate to these songs for all the same reasons that we talked about earlier. But also because there's the mystery to who are these voice actresses that sing this music. Fans of Michaela actively listen to the music in some form of digital masked singer fashion because they're trying to put a name to the voice, but that's still, those views and listens are still going to equate as income.
To money, yeah.
Yes, and with Seraphine, there's the story that unfolds with her covers as well, which kind of pull people in. I mean, obviously, Pop Stars is what literally springs her career into stardom, and that's pretty self-explanatory. And to some case, so is Childhood Dreams, because she's a teen. She's 17 in the story, and she's still a child, technically, and she has goals, and my God, she is going to reach them if it kills her, she's still trying to reach these childhood dreams, so they're still important to her. However, I want to mention that Seraphine also covers All the Things She Says by Tattoo, which is an LGBT anthem, especially for bi, pan, and lesbian women. This kind of creates the possibility that Seraphine may be part of the queer community, which creates a whole new possible group of audience. And
If you
That's
are
another
gay,
point.
you know the song, and you probably love it because it's a bop. I will play a little bit of it here.
All the things she said, all the things she said, running through my head, running through my head, running through my head. All the things she said, all the things she said, running through my head, running through my head. All the things she said. This is not enough. This is not enough.
And it's also another point of relatability because even on her Twitter, Sarah jokingly captions in a selfie, "I think I fall in love with everybody I meet." Doesn't say man. It says everybody. That includes women. That includes people outside of the gender binary. The ambiguity of this tweet is a tease that she could be LGBT, and with a cover of all the things she said, it fuels suddenly a very obvious connection to the LGBT community.
Yeah.
And even in Michaela's blog, she talks about being in love with Hunter Schafer, which I think is actually really cute, but also like, girl, same. Hunter Schafer is very beautiful. With Michaela, it's pretty obvious. Like, she's dated a guy, but also she has a crush on Hunter Schafer. I mean, that shows that she's at least bi, you know, which is very exciting to people.
The goal is to make Michaela as appealing to everyone as possible. Yeah, you make her appealing to boys, they can have a crush on her, and you know, there's the possibility of like, what if I dated Michaela?
Yeah.
If you're a girl, or if you're outside the gender, listen, Michaela's here for you. Michaela can be your waifu.
And so could Seraphine, apparently. Yeah, and both of these characters' music help breathe life into their stories and their backgrounds and their characters and makes them more relatable somehow, which that's just building up the parasocial relationship right there. And it's the easiest way because it's a passive income and it's making you care about these characters a little bit more because you're going to think about it when you're listening, you know? And
Well, I think music too, as we like keep coming back to it, music is something that we see as being so uniquely human in its creation.
yes.
Like, there aren't other animals that really make music in the same way that people do. And so, purposeful or not, we tie it to being a deeply personal aspect of the human experience, right? So, like, if you've got a robot who's making music, suddenly she seems more human.
I mentioned earlier Michaela covers, and I did want to talk about that too because, as we were saying, she hosted Michaela covers and did like a small performance with a few other musicians, and she released said music she made from that event under Michaela covers on Spotify, and it was a portion of her song Speak Up, and then she covered Sugar Sugar by Baby Bash and then sang her song Money, and nowhere does it say that Sugar Sugar was a song listed in it. I had to Google like bits and pieces of the lyrics in this cover mashup, and I was like, what the fuck songs are these? Because like, I don't know Michaela's music that well either, and I had to like find out which Michaela songs these were. I felt like a caveman, and that also kind of shows a lack of transparency because like anywhere else, if someone was to do a cover event like this, they would be like, I'm doing this song, and this song, or even in like the description on YouTube or maybe on your giant 10 video long Instagram story about this, you know, like I had to physically do work to find out. And I don't know how many people are willing to do that work who's just a casual listener on Spotify, you know? And it is nice to mention that Music Cares helps musicians who have been affected, like I was saying, by COVID-19. And this is pretty common. A lot of musicians have been doing benefit concerts like this. It kind of creates a sort of ethos as well that Michaela is a musician. She cares for other musicians in her community. She's giving a platform as well to several musicians such as Yuna, Justine Skye, and Below. However, these three musicians covered Michaela songs, and that feels a little weird to me because they didn't even get to perform their own songs. Like, I don't know who any three of these musicians are. I don't know what their music is, but people who are watching this, who are fans of Michaela, are going to know Michaela songs. And, like, why am I going to listen to your Michaela cover and be like, ooh, I have to check out the rest of their music? Like, I would rather they did, like, 2 songs each and did, like, a Michaela cover and one of their own songs or something like that.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what they decided to do. And
I'm going to go to a Green Day concert and there's 8 bands there and they're all going to be covering Green Day.
That's
like, no.
literally
I want to
how
hear
it
a band
feels.
do their own music.
And several fans also got into the action too and covered Michaela's songs. And once again, that is a great display of the parasocial relationship because Michaela is asking for help for these causes and fans can get in by donating, but also being a part of her show and performing these songs, which she then kind of mashes together all of their videos and includes herself in it. And she featured it later in a vlog and on her Instagram story. There's once again no mention about how much money she has raised. And
Don't trust that.
I did some digging on her Instagram, both on her story and her post. So I scrolled all the way back and there's really no information. And this feels like a really cool thing to do. However, the need for it to be only Michaela songs feels more like a publicity stunt than something with good intentions.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I've been to several of these types concerts. Like I even, for instance, in April, I watched the 100 Gex Square Garden concert on Minecraft. And though several of the artists that were performing in their ringtone remix song, all of the musicians that were on it played their own music and ringtone was never even touched. But what about KDA? Like, is KDA equally fucked up? The answer is yeah. Obviously,
Holly got a job.
Holly go to work. Obviously, KDA is made up of League of Legends characters, and in the beginning we were covering that this is an alternative universe where these characters of League of Legends work as pop stars, but they still have all their abilities and powers. So, like, I don't know what's so alternative about it. Maybe, like, on the side from killing people,
It's that Akali has a job.
Kali goes to work.
And she's a music producer, apparently.
Yeah, and KDA clearly takes influence from the K-pop genre, which makes sense because League of Legends' top 3 player regions are South Korea, Western Europe, and North America. Shocking. The music is generic enough that it's catchy to appeal to fans of these regions while still having enough flavor that highlights and gives each member a solo so you can appreciate your favorite girl in the group, which is very important because in K-pop there's a very big culture about having a bias, which is your favorite person.
It's also the thing that's weird to me about KDA, I'm not sure if you have this in your notes, I don't think I see it, is that the singers for each of the characters change and rotate in and out. So, like, sometimes Evelyn will be voiced by Madison Beer in the songs, and then sometimes she'll be B. Miller, which is odd to me that they're not keeping consistent voices. It obviously opens them up because they're constantly introducing new singers, and I think it adds a level of, like, wanting to watch the music video so that you can understand who is singing what part, if you can't naturally gauge that based on their voices. But I also, I don't know. They act both as a platform for other singers and like a weird detractor because it's not like in the music video they're being like, it's Madison Beer as Evelyn. It's just like, here's Evelyn and she's going to sing about being a villain now.
Yeah, exactly. Worlds 2020 happens. League of Legends Worlds. It's a month long. The event goes on from September 25th to October 31st, and it was in Shanghai, China. The opening ceremony was, of course, including KDA, and Akali drives in on a motorcycle, and Seraphine rides down to sing her part on a cloud. I don't know. I watched it, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Anyway, it's pretty obvious that the hype was incredibly visible for Seraphine when she came out on stage, and I can't tell from what I was watching if that was Jasmine Clark singing as KDA danced under her, or if that was somebody else. Like, I could not tell. And that's another issue. Like, it didn't say, like, introducing Jasmine Clark. It didn't say, like...
Who herself does not have a big discography.
No. She has a very small discography. She has, like, one small EP and then, like, maybe 1 or 2 covers, you know?
And now it's Seraphine time.
Yeah, and then it's Seraphine time. And just, like, how can you celebrate this musician if you don't even know who this is, you know? And it's like, are you cheering because a human being is on stage performing, or are you cheering because Seraphine has now showed up and she's reached her dreams of becoming a professional singer and is singing with KDA?
It's hard to articulate, right? Because it's not quite the same as Gorillaz or Miss Miku. Because, like, Miss Hatsune Miku, we know, is a software program. Yes. We've always known she's a software programmer.
We've always known that Gorillaz is made up by Jamie Hewlett and Damon Albarn. Like, We've always known this.
Yeah, there's a level of transparency there to acknowledge that like they're not real, and you would be like, oh, Cass and Teese, but like these obviously aren't real. But like the gorillas don't have an Instagram account where they're trying to sell you clothing and, you know, like get you to eat their exclusive burger with McDonald's.
Yeah.
It's just, it's influencer culture is so weird to me. Like I get it, and it's very effective marketing, and like that's why it works, because it relies on parasocialism.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean I have to like it.
Yes. And of course, this was clearly cross promotion for KDA's new EP that released on November 6th that Seraphine was a part of. But I also would love to touch on the genius lyric
My
explanation
favorite video.
with
Kali got a job. Kali go to work.
Akali came out and described the lyrics for more, and this was clearly another piece of advertising for the EP.
Kali go girl, Kali gon' stop, Kali gon' skirt, Kali got a job, Kali go to work. 뜨거워 언제나 don't get burned.
I don't need permission to take risks, to try out new ideas. I mean, my career's been about mixing languages, pushing boundaries, defining what success is on my own terms.
Can I talk a little bit about like kind of the aspect of this video that really frustrates me visually?
Yes.
So Genius videos are obviously set up in a way so that you have your musician sitting down and talking about their song lyrics after they say them. And there's like two weird divorces that happen in this video. And the first is that whoever is voicing Kali is not her game voice actress and is not any of the singers who have betrayed her.
Yeah, who is this?
She sounds like a 13-year-old girl. So it's really weird. Like, this isn't what Kali sounds like in the music. And like, I'll play a clip from the Genius video, and then I'll also play a clip from one of KDA's songs. But it's so weird. And then on top of that, it's like her animation. This is totally nitpicky on my part. Her animation is like clearly mocapped, but it's very, very over animated to the point where like it's like they took every possible body gesture they saw in Genius videos and put them all onto her. She is constantly moving. She looks hyperactive. She looks frenetic. Sometimes her lip sync doesn't even match up properly. Like, the animation is not bad. It's not bad. But to anyone who's more familiar with 3D animation, like, it does kind of look a little messy, which is also, again, her proportions are unreal. Like, her stomach does not fold or crease at any point when she doubles over. Like, she has a perpetually flat stomach the entire time. Yeah. She's got like really wide hips and broad shoulders because of her jacket. Her game model does not translate to real life or like even stylized life really well, because the way Riot approaches eyelashes for visibility doesn't quite work sometimes when she turns her face into 3/4. This is just me being super nitpicky, but I don't like it, and the video looks super stunted and weird. Not good. I'm waiting for them to like try and do a colors show with KDA or something where they do a collab with that YouTube channel, which Colors is great. Go check out Colors. Love that YouTube channel. Great way to find new music.
So
anyway, Kali got a job, Kali go to work.
Kali got a job, Kali got to work. And as we heard earlier from the audio clip, Kali doesn't make these decisions about her career. Riot does. And it's wild to see this CGI character motion flailing say all of these things about her career, and yet KDA has only been active since November 3rd, 2018, when Pop Stars came out. It's not as if they were touring and building a career for the past 10 years. They just came out of the seafoam with fame, flash, and obsession from fans because there was already an attachment to these characters.
And the music video was cool.
Yeah, and now you can interact with them in a different way than just using them as a playable character in League. Kali says in the beginning, "We wanted," as if the group was sentient and had ideas and goals in mind when making this music. Need I say it? This is just a marketing ploy designed for you to care about these characters more so you're willing to buy their in-game skins.
Yeah.
Kali got a job and Kali go to work.
Except she doesn't.
It's being a League of Legends character that doesn't exist.
It's so frustrating.
And
she's like, this is all about the evolution, the next step of KDA and our career. Like, she's like, I spent my whole career working for this, and it's like, you don't have a career. Yeah. You're not real. You haven't been working toward anything. The people who have been working are the underrepresented people at Riot who aren't getting paid enough for this bullshit.
And that's it. That's
That's it. That's the episode.
That's the episode. That's the end of Parasocial Relationships. I never have to look at Seraphine's face again.
The whole thing with CGI people is that this has come up a lot in the past years because of the Star Wars movies, quite literally bringing dead actors back to life.
Yeah.
Is at what point do you lose autonomy? And can people just make you do and say whatever you want? And I mean, we're also experiencing that with deep fakes.
Mm-hmm.
The more and more I think we normalize these fake people, the more and more dangerous it becomes for us as consumers to be manipulated by them.
Yeah.
And like we already are being manipulated by them in, I feel, pretty nefarious ways. Like getting you to spend money on something that you otherwise wouldn't, that is otherwise non-important, even if it's like a League of Legends skin. It's kind of gross to me. I don't like that.
Yeah. So that was it, Cass. How are you feeling?
I feel okay.
Okay.
This one wasn't as bogged down with fascism, so that always makes me feel better.
I'm glad. Instead, it's just capitalism.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with me, Teese.
Thank you for all the hard work that you've put into your portion as well. Cass,
thank you for your hard work.
I love you.
I love you too.
Where can we find you online?
You can't find me. I'll be hanging out on the Sesame Street. If you catch me, I'm pretty much everywhere at Valhethella. That's VALHETHELLA. Teese, if we want to find you, where can we get you at?
Unfortunately, you can find me on Twitter at Vicunyad, VICUNAD.
If you want to reach out to us to talk about the podcast, you can hit us up with an email at authorsnotepod@gmail.com, or you can also find us on Twitter. That's authorsnotepod on Twitter. If you would like to support us more financially, as a cool, fun reminder, if we get 50 cumulative donations over at Ko-fi.
Cumulative dollars?
50 cumulative dollars, yes, not donations. But if everyone donated $1, listen, if we get a 50 total US dollars on coffee at Authors Note Pod, again, we're Authors Note Pod on Ko-fi, that's KOFI, I will read the entire Cullen address and talk about it point by point, and Teese will have to listen to me suffer. So, there's that. I think that's it. Yeah.
What about people who we have to say thank you to?
Do we have to say thank you to anybody?
Yeah, we have to say thank you to Jala for making our cover.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's what we're going to. Teese, who made our theme music?
Our theme music was made by James Wayulo. You could find him on Bandcamp under James Y.
And our cover art was done by the wonderful Nyaliest. You can find her shitposting about so many things on Twitter. That's at Nyaliest, NYALLIEST. And until next time, bye.
Bye.
Also, stay safe. I forgot to tell you that. Please stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.